Hello and welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, where we talk about video games, movies, comics, and other shit that matters. My name is Shea, and today I hate modern millennial phrases like bae or I literally can't even.
And my name's Kyle, and today I hate leftover steaks that are a little too rare, and so they're just impossible to chew. I hate that shit.
I feel like that's so random and specific, but I get it.
Don't you, though?
Although the too rare thing, I don't know that I really understand, because don't you still order steaks well done?
I do medium well now.
Okay, all right, I can respect that a little more. I remember you used to order them well done, and it was always so gross, because they'd bring out this, like, charred, gray slab of meat that just looked so unappealing.
It was super dead. By the time I ate it, like killed it many times over. Yeah, I do medium well now. I'll occasionally do medium, but anything rarer than that, and I'm just like, I'm chewing for what seems like an eternity to try and decimate the piece of meat in my mouth to a swallowable size.
I feel like a lot of it depends on, one, the quality of the meat, and also like where you're getting it from.
That's true.
So like if it's a filet mignon, that's going to be a much different texture than like a sirloin would.
Right, and
so like whenever I'm ordering, it depends on what kind of steak I'm getting and how like the quality of the steakhouse will inform if I'm going to order it medium or medium well.
Right, and like my girlfriend and I, we make steaks all the time. She just cooks them in the oven. She broils them on a thing, and we do sirloins because we have a place we can get them pretty cheap, and they're okay cuts too, and so like that's fine. But every now and then it doesn't get cooked as much as I would like it, and I'm just like trying to get through it.
Well, but without a grill though, doesn't it just look unappealing?
Yeah, but it all looks the same coming out, so
that's gross.
It tastes the same.
I remember listening on the Giant Bombcast, like when Drew was there, he would always talk about his sous vide or sous vide. I don't remember how you pronounce it, but it's like the water pressure cooker, where like he would cook things in there, and it's really easy, and it doesn't like you don't get a lot of the chemicals or whatever that you might get in preserving food, or like the gross gas that you would get cooking on a stove or on a grill.
Sure.
But to me, like, if you're not cooking on it, like meat just looks nasty if it doesn't have those grill marks on it. It just looks gray and gross.
Yeah, but it still tastes great.
You're right. If you can look past, but it isn't like, I'm not a scientist, but I feel like a portion of taste is sight. Like how things taste is informed by how you view them, or like smell is a big part of taste.
Smell is the most important. I feel like
that's science.
I mean, taste is smell. Like if you plug your nose and eat, you can't taste anything.
Right.
So it's
and
depending
like
on smell,
if you shove food up your nose, it tastes the same as if you eat it.
That's right. But like I exclusively eat, almost exclusively in front of my computer. So I'm always watching something while I eat. So the way the food looks really isn't that big of a deal.
That's fair.
And yeah,
you're too busy just like staring into the empty vastness of your computer screen, just shoveling shit into your face. It doesn't even matter.
That's right. It's like you lived with me at some point.
Yeah. So yes, like I said, this is the Shea Hates Everything podcast. This is episode 2. So congratulations if you made it through episode 1 and decided that you wanted to hear more. I don't know why, but thanks. Thanks for still listening. Today's really cool. We're going to be looking back through the E3 press conferences and kind of the event in general, talking about a lot of the big games from the big publishers. We're going to be doing this over the next couple of episodes to spread it out, and so that it's not like a 4-hour podcast, because we have a tendency to talk about things a lot and ramble a lot and give opinions a lot. So trying to trim it down as much as possible. But first, before we jump into that, wanted to bring up a little thing. In our first episode, we kind of went through a lot of our favorite things, our favorite games, favorite movies, to try to give you guys a better understanding of our perspective on the things we're going to be talking about, and kind of figuring out a little bit more of like, oh, they like these type of things, they don't like these type of things, to kind of make our opinions make better sense. But I realized one of the things we didn't talk about, which is, important now that we just talked about steak, we didn't talk about like our favorite foods. So I don't have like a bunch of like favorite foods to make. I'm a pretty simple person, but I know like I'm a huge pasta person. I'm a huge pizza person. Like I prescribe to the feeling that there's no such thing as bad pizza. Like even bad pizza still is pretty good. I just feel like the toppings can certainly fuck up a pizza. Keep your anchovies, keep your mushrooms, keep your pineapple. Like give me like regular meats and cheeses, maybe some peppers, some onions, stuff like that. I don't want all the like fancy shit on my pizza. What kind of like do you just usually eat pepperoni pizza, right, Kyle?
I do all sorts of stuff. Like I'll do buffalo pizza.
Nice.
So my taste has expanded. Like, I don't like olives, but I will still eat a pizza with olives on it. Like, I'll just chomp away and do it anyway. So I will eat any pizza. At this point, it's the perfect just mouth shape and food delivery system for
it's got a
nutrients.
Good mouth feel.
Yeah, great mouth feel. So like literally, it could be anything on a pizza. Like Papa John's has a buffalo pizza that has ranch sauce.
Okay, that sounds all right.
Like, see, that sounded awful to me. Like, that sounded terrible.
Yes, like in theory it sounds gross, but like having had buffalo pizza like that before, like I could go for some of that.
Yeah, it was totally a good time. And so that just kind of reinforces my thought pattern of any pizza good.
Yeah. There's something just inherently about like bread and cheese and like marinara sauce especially, but like that combination, oof, it's so good. But the only other like big favorites thing that I have, Mountain Dew and Reese's Cups. Like those
together?
Two. I mean, yeah, together or separate. Like not like I'm not going to make a shake made out of Mountain Dew and Reese's Cups, but just like those two food stuffs are like my favorite food stuffs. And I know both of them are completely terrible for you, but chocolate and peanut butter is so good together, and Reese's is like the Reese's Cups is like the perfect ratio of peanut butter to chocolate. Cuz I like the big cups. I like the Easter eggs they do. I like the Christmas trees they occasionally do, but the ratio is different because the shape is different. There's something about the original Reese's Cup. I always keep a bag of them like in my nightstand, that if I'm having a bad day, come home, pop open a Reese's Cup, and it just fills me with joy in the way that no other thing can.
See, for me, the Easter eggs are my ideal ratio. It's because it's a little less chocolate and a little more of the peanut butter.
Those have a little more peanut butter in them.
Yeah, and that's a straight good time.
I can respect that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to
what's your favorite Mountain Dew
food,
flavor?
Original. I like.
Okay.
I mean, they're not all good, but like all of the regular flavors are. Because one of the things it tastes, and sodas like this, it tastes different bottled can to like fountain. And so it really depends on where I am. But like regular Mountain Dew out of a can is my favorite. I like the natural cane sugar Mountain Dew too, but it's a very different flavor. I need to be in the kind of mood for that.
Okay.
But I also like, Taco Bell's Baja Blast is really good with Taco Bell.
Yes.
I wouldn't drink it by itself, but with tacos, there's something about it where it's really good.
You drink red wine when you eat meat. You drink Baja Blast when you eat Taco Bell.
The flavor profiles. It brings out the best in each other. But I know soda is like the worst thing on the planet, and my wife gets so mad at me for like, I'm not terrible. I try to drink no more than a soda a day. I'm trying to go a couple of days without having one because I know it's so bad for you. But man, it's one of those things, because she used to really love Dr. Pepper, and she just kind of went cold turkey on soda, and she just didn't drink it ever. And she's like, now I don't even want soda anymore. And I'm like, that sounds terrible. like why would I want to not want something that is amazing? It's like, oh, I could go for 6 years and never watch TV, and then like, oh, I don't want to watch TV anymore. It's not part of my lifestyle. But like, fucking kill me if that's what it is. Like, I don't want to live like that.
Yeah. So I had a big stint where I was like trying to cut out soda completely. Like I would only get soda like when I would get fast food, and that was it. And I would only get a medium, not a large, because I was drinking like 3-4 sodas a day,
Well, yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, and so, I tried to cold turkey it, and I felt better. I felt so much better all the time. My energy level was different. And just like because, you and I both have bad stomach problems. You more so than me, but, I still suffer from some discomfort. And my stomach was getting better and everything. And now, because I work in the education industry. I have a job in education, so my summers are free. And now that it's summer, I'm not doing anything. And so I've started drinking back to like 3 or 4 sodas a day. And I feel awful, but man, I missed feeling awful. I missed feeling like a piece of shit.
That's so terrible. That is terrible.
And like I understand why people use heroin and drugs. Like you feel terrible, but you miss feeling terrible. It's the best bad feeling.
So basically, like, you're pro hardcore drugs.
Hardcore Mountain Dew.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I can respect that.
Straight
Just
sugar in my veins.
Inject it right in there. So before we got to kind of what we're playing and watching right now, I have like a bit of a humble brag, and like I apologize in advance for being that kind of a person, but like it's just something that I think is like really cool and very satisfying that because I started my blog a couple of years ago, and just about, I guess it's been a little over a year, I transitioned and finally opened SheaHatesEverything.com. Before it was like just a blogger website, and now that I have like a legit domain name, a legit quote unquote brand for this, and so I've been putting like a lot of time in it because it's something I'm passionate about and it's a really good creative outlet. And I found out just a couple days ago, I was doing some Google searching, and I have a ranking of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia seasons, and it's definitely one of my more popular posts that I've put up on my site. And I randomly discovered that if you Google like It's Always Sunny season rankings, like something similar to that, I show up on the front page of Google. And, like, that was just, like, a thing that I discovered where I was like, this is pretty fucking neat. Like, I know for you, and we talked about this last episode when you were having your YouTube channel and you had that one Minecraft series that just, like, blew up and you were getting thousands and thousands of views. It's something similar where, like, you were just doing this for fun. You're not doing it to make money. But it still is nice when you feel like you have succeeded at something.
Totally.
So that... I just thought, like, it was just, like, it was a cool, because a lot of them I'll show up, because it's not like my website's big, but a lot of them I'll show up on, like, the second page of Google results, depending on what the topic is. But this one, like, if you put in the right combination of those words, I was, like, the 5th result. Like, I was above, like, the EW ranking. I was above, like, Ranker.com's ranking. And those ones are always at the top of the list. And I know this because I do a lot of research on this shit for my website. But that's maybe that's a new segment. Shea's humble brag of the day. No, that's not going to be a segment. I hate being one of those people. But this was one of those examples of, like, not even, like, patting on the back, self-congratulatory, but just, like, it just feels good. That's it. It's some positivity before we dive into all the negative shit on this podcast.
It's a positive mouthfeel.
Yes, positive mouthfeel to talk about myself
right.
And all the meteoric rise to success that I'm experiencing very clearly of my like dozens and dozens and dozens of posts. I've had one that got a couple hundred page views.
Yeah, man.
But so we didn't do this last episode because it was more of an introductory kind of pilot episode. But one of the things I want us to do every podcast is kind of talk about what we're watching, what we're playing, what we're reading. So Kyle, like, what have you been up to in the world of video games and movies and comics and stuff?
Well, I'm at hour 470 of Unturned on Steam.
Okay. This and I'm a little familiar with Unturned. This came out a couple of years ago, correct?
Yeah, this is it's next Friday will be the 3-year anniversary of it coming out.
Okay, so that is still a lot of time, even for 3 years. That is a lot.
Yeah, that's you know what? Let me break out my handy dandy calculator and determine what percentage of my time has been spent playing Unturned. So 470 hours, or actually, hold on. So 365 days times 24 hours times 3 years divided by, actually no, so 26,280, 470 divided by 26,280. 1.8 rounded up 1.8% of my entire life of the past 3 years has been spent doing that one the one video game.
I wonder how that compares to like normal everyday things. Like I wonder how much of your time in the last 3 years has been spent taking a shower or like talking to your girlfriend. Like I wonder where that 1.8% ranks compared to that stuff, because 1.8% doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about that, 1.8% of your life, of your existence on this earth in the past 3 years has been spent playing one specific video game.
Yeah, that means if I do a net 50 things a day at all, this would have to be one of those equal parts of the 50 things.
So you can only do 50 things every day, and Unturned is one of them.
Unturned has like to be one of them.
Blinking is one of them. Breathing is one of them. Eating is one of them. Sleeping is certainly one of them. And then like Unturned ranks above telling your girlfriend you love her. Ranks above learning a new skill. Like
yeah.
So for people that like aren't super familiar with Unturned, like what is the game? It's just like it's a first-person crafting survival zombie game, right?
Yeah, and it's got like it's the style.
That sounds
the style
like
of, it's
negative.
Sounds so generic.
Yeah.
But you know I really like the graphical style. You know, it's like almost like a kid-friendly if you turn the blood off, because the blood's crazy. But it's like potato style graphics, and if you Google search potato graphics, I mean, you might come up with some potatoes, but I think you might find some things that look similar to
some really
it.
High-res HD potatoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at them potato graphics.
But it's just got this really, really neat art style, and the gameplay loop is really engaging. You know, you go out, forage for weapons and food and water, like supplies, and then like building materials and different things, because there's this huge extensive crafting system. There's vehicles where you can build onto vehicles and like add storage to them, and like in a semi-recent update they added the ability to shoot tires out, and there are car batteries now, so if the car battery's dead you have to find a charged battery and put it in. And
how regularly do they update this?
It gets an update every Friday. A lot of the times it's little bug fixes, but he always has a new map he's working on. And next Friday, for the 3-year anniversary, it's officially leaving early access, and it's getting a final release version that he'll keep adding to it, but it's finally out of the early access label.
I hate that shit. Like, I mean, this is not specific to Unturned. I'm not calling out Unturned about this, but like that, I need to write that down. That's a future Shea Hate of the Week. Like, fucking early access games that stay in early access for years and years, and yet still charge full price. Like that is so ridiculous.
Unturned is free.
Okay, all right, I take it back.
There's a $5 version where you can you get a couple of extra skins for stuff, and you get access to their gold servers, like his hosted servers that he pays to host. And it's like a little way of giving back to him. And as someone who has spent 470 hours in his game, I was like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll give him $5. But there's also there's skins for every weapon in the entire game, including all these different melee weapons and stuff. And there's tons of skins, and he's even started doing curated community skins. So the people who make those skins get a cut of the sales from those microtransactions. Because if you play for a little while every day, I think the timer resets every day, but if you play, like you load up a world and play, and then when you exit out, you get a random item drop. Now that can be like, it won't be a curated skin. It will be one of his originals, or it'll be like a crate that has a chance of netting you one of these rare skins kind of thing. And then you need a key to open the crate, and yada, 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 that whole deal. But like I said, it's a free game, and it's all cosmetic. There's nothing functional hidden behind any of that stuff. So like and it's one guy who makes the game, right? And now the most recent map, Hawaii, was made by the modding community with oversight of the main guy. So he's bringing some community people in that are really passionate about the game and letting them create some content, which has turned out really well. I think the Hawaii map is really freaking sweet. and like they've made new vehicles, and so every time he adds a map, he adds like a new host of vehicles and assets and weapons that go along with that map that can then be used by people creating other maps. And he has a built-in map creation tool, so if anybody can pop in and start making stuff. I've tried it. It's a little
too much stuff.
Yeah, and just like because some of the UI stuff wasn't finished when I was doing it like over a year ago. I think it's much better now, but it would have taken a much bigger time sink to learn all of the systems of it.
Right. It's like a whole other game.
Yeah, totally. And I would rather just play people's generated content.
So what is it do you think that's hooked you about the game? Like, why have you put so many hours? Is it the regular updates? Like, is that what's keeping you invested?
That super helps. In any early access game, staying engaged with the community is extremely important, and he does that through updates and Twitter and forums and all that stuff. So he's been really active ever since it came out, like for the past 3 years. And he like hardly ever misses a week in terms of an update, and he's constantly fixing bugs, adding content. That really helps, but it's also just the game he designed is entertaining and just the right mix of goofy and scary, because that game can be really punishing if you suck super hard. But like once you play long enough, you figure things out, and it's got like a whole skill system where you're speccing into stuff with XP, and it's a fabulous game, and the more time goes on, the more there is to it, and I think that's always exciting to explore the new content. That always.
Do you play with other
back.
people regularly?
No, so I don't have any of my friends who really like to play it, so I tend to play solo. I've tried hopping on servers and stuff, but that's extremely punishing because I'm not great with the PvP because I haven't done a whole lot of it, and there are people who are really good at PvP in that game.
Okay.
And that can be very frustrating because it's DayZ. Like if anyone's ever played the DayZ mod for Arma or the standalone, that's what it is, just with like goofier graphics. But it's very, very similar. But I think functionally it maybe has a little more going on externally. In terms of like things you interact with, but a little less going on in terms of the upkeep of like your own body and stuff like you have in Arma and DayZ.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just it speaks to me on a lot of different levels, and unfortunately, because of the graphics, it attracts a younger crowd. So
yeah, I remember that was a big problem with Minecraft too. We both used to play a lot of Minecraft.
Yeah, and not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. It's just like I'm 25. I'm buying a house. Like I don't want to play with a bunch of 14-year-olds,
For sure.
That just doesn't sound interesting to me.
And let's not mince words. I mean, like 14-year-olds, even younger kids than that, can be pretty fucking annoying.
Yeah.
And I say that from personal experience. Like I was annoying when I was that age too.
Totally. And that's just a part of growing up and figuring out who you are. But that's your 10 minutes of Unturned talk. I think that's probably good to leave there. If you're interested in it, like anyone listening, it's free on Steam. Like just download it, load it up. There's a tutorial that walks you through some basic stuff.
I think I have it. I don't know that I've ever started it up, but I definitely have it on my account.
It's a really fun time, and if you can get some people together, it's exponentially fun. Because, I've played a couple times with some of my friends on servers, like for a week at a time or whatever, when they're really into it. And then they kind of hit a point where they're like, okay, well, I have everything and yada, yada, yada. They kind of reach that end of the crafting branch or whatever that they're interested in. And so they're done. And, that's fine. But, like, I don't know. It's free. It doesn't hurt to try it, unless you're strapped on time, which a lot of adults
and like
are.
if you know that genre doesn't appeal to you, it's probably not going to do anything to bring you in.
Sure. Yeah. So still playing Unturned. Good Lord. And I just beat Wolfenstein New Order for the second time since I saw the new Colossus announcement at E3, which we'll talk about. And that had me like, yeah, I should really play those Wolfenstein games again. I liked those, and I really liked it again. Still, New Order's a solid game.
I liked the first one, and I'm not like a Wolfenstein fan per se. It's not that I don't have anything against the series. I just never really got into it. But I wanted to try out the New Order because I heard it was really good and just like a fun over-the-top shooter.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of parts of it that I did like. The actual shooting mechanics felt really good, and honestly, the stealth felt pretty good considering the kind of game that it was.
Yeah.
But once it was like in these bigger open areas, I don't know, that just didn't connect with me as much. I remember there was one sequence, and I didn't get super far, maybe like halfway through the game at most, but there was one sequence where like you're sneaking through a bunch of checkpoints in a car, and you keep having to get out to like unlock the gate or whatever, and that just, something about it, I was getting really bored going through that. And then there was some boss at the end it was like a big mechanical thing that you had to fight that I just
it's about 3/4 of the way through.
I was having trouble killing it. Like I had died a couple times and was like, I'm not having that much fun, and I just kind of burnt out on it. But the corridor shooter stuff, the stuff that feels more like a Doom game, that I all really, really loved. And the sense of humor in that game was really good too.
Yeah, and I think they have an interesting cast of characters that they crafted out of it. With characters that have more not sophisticated elements, but like a little more draw to them than they really have any right to. And so I'm excited for New Colossus, or what is it? Is it new Colossus?
The new Colossus.
Because it's New Order, Old Blood, New Colossus. New Old New.
Right.
And then Old Blood, I still need to go back and play that again. That's on my list of Steam games to go back through. I want to go and play that.
Do you know where that takes place? Like, is that a follow-up?
I believe it leads directly into the events of New Order, I believe.
Okay, so it takes place before. The DLC takes place before the game.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it's mostly what I've been playing. I just today downloaded Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn and Black Desert Online. So I always get really bored with MMOs super quickly within the first month.
Yeah.
But this is my dead time in the summer, so it'll give me something to do.
I mean, the changes that they had made to Final Fantasy XIV, and I mean, I'm not really an MMO person, but I've heard like really, really good things about it. Like the people that are still playing that game love it.
Yeah, so Danny O'Dwyer, formerly of GameSpot, he started up his own little, 1 or 2 person video game documentary series called No Clip. You can find them on YouTube or on Patreon. And they just did a 3-part series on the transformation of Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 to A Realm Reborn. Nice. And it's fascinating. It's a 3-part, I think. The first episode's like 50 minutes and the other 2 are a half hour, I think, so it's a couple hours long. It's really fascinating. He has some great conversations with a lot of the developers.
That's cool.
It's a really, really neat thing. And that's what made me go re-download it, because I played it during the 1.0 and wasn't grabbed by it. And so that kind of made me want to try out A Realm Reborn. And I've just been in the mood for Final Fantasy game. It's either I try this out or I go back and play Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube or some weird one like that.
Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, is coming out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was never as big on 12 as you were, though.
You can fuck right off. That game is great. I cannot wait for that.
I know you. I know you're excited. Hey, when I worked at GameStop, I got you that Final Fantasy XII PS2 Steelbook.
Hell yeah, Steelbook. Hell yeah, son. I still have that shit.
Yeah.
If I still had my original PS3 that was backwards compatible, I would still regularly play that game. The story gets a bit messy and political, which I don't love.
Right.
And Vaughn is one of the most annoying Final Fantasy protagonists.
Yep.
But I love the combat of that game. But that's something I'm sure we'll dive into once Zodiac comes out, because I'm going to have some thoughts on that game. Yeah. Before we dive into some other stuff, since we're on the video game topic, really the only game that I've been playing recently and consistently has been Horizon Zero Dawn, which is like a super hot release, obviously. But it's one of those games, because it's so big, and I don't like to spend a ton of time at any one time with any one game. I like to kind of spread my time around with multiple games at a time. Otherwise, I get like bored and burn out. So that's been a really good game that like I'll play like every Saturday. I'll play it for 90 minutes, that kind of thing, which has obviously made me play through it really slowly, but it's at least kept my momentum going in that game.
That's
and
good.
These big open world RPG-ish kind of games I tend to burn out on really fast. And I'm actually going to finish this one because I think I'm really close to the end. I think I have like 1 or 2 main story missions. I've done like all the side mission stuff. But that game's real good. To be fair, I do not have a Switch, so I have not played The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but Horizon Zero Dawn is easily my game of the year thus far. Like, it's super, super good. The story is surprisingly engaging. It starts off slow, and I made the mistake I always make, which is once I'm dumped into the open world, I go and do everything besides the main story, which is not something you should really do. Because part of my problem is, like, once I dive into the main story, I'm going to want to stick to that, and it makes it hard for me to break away. So I, like, try to put it off a little bit. But with this game... And honestly, I feel like it is a flaw of the game. They wait until these big story moments, and then they just dump a shit ton of exposition on you. And then you get nothing for a little bit, and then they dump a shit ton of exposition on you. And that, like, once you're in those moments, it's cool because you're like, oh my god, the content or the context of this world is starting to make sense. But in the in-between times, it can feel kind of meandering. And that's definitely how I was for a while. Like, I was just wandering around the wooded areas, killing the robot dinosaurs, doing some random side fetch quest missions. And I was like, the combat is fun-ish, the camera's not great, the character's cool, and the dialogue is actually pretty good, and the game looks amazing, but like I'm not getting a ton out of this. So once I kind of decided to stick more to the main story, now I'm like all in, and it bums me out that I didn't do that earlier.
Yeah.
Because I think I would have got a little more out of the beginning of the game had I done that. But oh man, just like the world is so cool because it's, you know, obviously it's like this post-apocalypse where humanity's kind of rebuilding, and your character, you're slowly figuring out there's something special about you because of course you're the main character of a video game, so there's something special about you. But you're kind of like trying to put those pieces together and figure out why the world is the way it is. And you go into these caves where like you're seeing technology that is modern and like modern to our literal real life technology.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing in the game takes place like presumably hundreds or if not thousands of years. I think it's like 600 years after our modern society. But it's like, why did things go wrong? What happened? Why are there robot dinosaurs everywhere? Like, and you find out that we created the robot dinosaurs and something clearly went wrong. And I won't go into spoilers to it, but it's the story of it takes a lot of turns and a lot of moments where I was like, oh shit, as stuff would happen where like you're putting these pieces together. So if you own a PS4 and you haven't played it, which probably is speaking to a relatively small amount of people, game's real good. I know you started it, but you kind of burn out.
Yeah, I think that's because I also had Zelda at the time.
Sure, they're fairly similar.
Yeah, so I got burnt out on both. So
yeah, I get that.
You know, we talked about it last week. I had just been to Georgia to visit you, or last episode, and that was the first time I had picked Zelda back up since shortly after it released. Because like I was playing Horizon, and then my girlfriend went and picked up a Switch, and then got Zelda, and then I started playing Zelda, and I had no desire to go back to Horizon, and then Zelda was doing things better than Horizon, but Horizon had done some things better than Zelda, and so I was frustrated with those elements of Zelda, so I got burnt out on that too, and so then I just stopped both. And I think I'm at a point where I've been playing games for a while now, and I'm beginning to crave more and more structured titles with titles with a tighter structure, because so many games don't need a fucking open world, and it is done poorly more often than it's done well, significantly more often than it's done well. And so, you know, I just kind of fell off it, and I need to go back. One of my friends has my copy of Horizon right now, so I'll have to get it back from him. I think he quit partway through as well. But yeah, I just feel like that's what happens a lot with these with these open world games. People fall off too much because they're not giving the player enough high quality, engaging content. It's quantity over quality a lot of the times.
I think it's easier for, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but for casual video game players, people that don't play as many games as we typically do, that like they go from one game to the next. Because if you're going to only play one game and put several hours in it per week and only focus on that game, I feel like it's easier to keep the momentum going and keep the like exploration going. But if you're like us, and especially like me, where I'm only playing it for a couple hours a week in addition to playing 3 or 4 other games a couple hours a week, it makes it harder to go back to and like remember what's happening, remember what you had wanted to do and why you're doing it, that kind of stuff. So I think part of it comes down to different audiences getting different things out of those games.
Yeah.
So when it comes to outside of video games, just to hit on it super quick, I'm getting super pumped for the new season of Game of Thrones, which starts really soon, mid-July. And so my wife and I went back and we wanted to rewatch some of it to kind of like, partially for her to get her back into the story, remember what's happening, but also for me, I just like getting some momentum going into like a new season of a show that I like. So we just watched through season 5, which is really good, but easily the worst season of the show. So we're starting season 6 now and that one I've only seen once. So this will only be my second viewing, but so I'm really excited to go back and rewatch that. And especially being like a book reader, it's really cool to go back and watch the show after it moved past where the books were, because like there were so many things that happened that were like surprising and that I didn't see coming because it didn't happen that way in the books.
Right.
So that's just a really fun like mixture between being a fan of the books and a fan of the show. It's been a like a fun way to re-engage my love for the show, because now it's all new. Like before it was like, oh, I can't wait to see the crazy shit that I read in the book. I can't wait to see that crazy shit on screen. Now I'm just like all of the other people that are watching the show for the first time. Like I don't know what's going to happen, and it's really fun to go online and theorize with people. Besides that, I've been rewatching Seinfeld. One of the big things on my website, I like to do like season rankings of my favorite shows. Like I mentioned, It's Always Sunny earlier. So Seinfeld's the current one I'm working on. I'm getting ready to wrap it up. I just have the finale to watch, and then I'll be able to post kind of a full mathematical ranking of the seasons of the show. So I'm really excited to get that going. And then
that's the best way to rank something as subjective as a personal list, is to break it down into mathematics.
Well, no, like the way that my rankings work, and it is totally subjective. The joke is that I use math.
Yeah.
But the way that I go through it, like I watch from the first episode to the last episode. I assign each episode a score 1 through 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And it's all in relation to the show itself, like the quality of its own episode. I'm not like these episodes aren't as good as these episodes of this different show. Like I'm not going to do that. It's just like comparatively with Seinfeld, how do these episodes rank against each other? And then I add the episode scores up, divide it by the number of episodes in the season, and that gives me the average score for the season, and that's how I end up ranking them. So it's like those episode scores are still completely subjective in my opinion, but there's like some method to it. I'm not just saying like, oh, season 7's the best, and here let me come up with reasons why. Like there's actual, I'm using sneer quotes, there's actual science behind it. But the only other thing like I've seen fairly recently, Kelly and I went and saw Wonder Woman. And have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
You're not like super into the Marvel DC movies, right?
No, but I did want to watch Wonder Woman because I've heard some really good things about it.
Yes, it was very solid. Kelly liked it more than I did, and one of the big takeaways, which I totally get, well, I can totally understand, I don't get it, which is the problem, but I totally understand from like a female perspective, finding it really awesome to have this kick-ass female character starring her own movie. And one of the great things about it too, like they make mention that she's a female, and some of the male characters look down on her because of that, and partially because it's like a World War II movie. This was back, a lot of women didn't have the rights that they have nowadays.
Right.
And so from that perspective, I could totally see how it's very empowering and cool. For me, like just as taken at face value, like as an action movie, far and away the best DC movie that we've had in the last several years, but like compared to the other superhero movies like coming out of Marvel, I consider it it's a very solid like B tier movie. Like for people listening that haven't seen it yet, like if they've seen like a movie like Ant-Man or Iron Man 2, like it's still good. I still recommend seeing it, but it didn't blow me out of the water the way like a Guardians of the Galaxy did. Just my 2 cents.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that, and I've
totally worth seeing, and like I like it because it's a female-led superhero movie directed by a female director. Like, not to be into the societal aspect of it, but because it is of a high quality, I want to give attention and give money to a project like that to hopefully encourage more projects like that.
Yeah, totally, and I've always been like. It's easy for people to complain online about representation and appropriation and things like that. And my big thing is, and this means nothing because I'm a white male, but it's like if you're not okay with it, do something to change it. And like the most recent Ghostbusters movie, a lot of people shit on it. I haven't seen it personally, but I know a lot of women had a lot of positive takeaways from that, and I think that's important. I think that's cool. And so hearing that the Wonder Woman movie is well received by everyone and not just the female community, and it's this empowering project for females involved in it, I think that's even cooler. Like that everyone gets to enjoy it and everyone gets to appreciate it, and draw something from it, and it's also it's cool because you see little boys in their Iron Man costumes and Spider-Man costumes all the time, and I've seen a lot of pictures now of little girls in their Wonder Woman costumes.
100%,
and that's
it's no
awesome.
longer like the little girls no longer look up to Disney princesses alone. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, like liking princesses and liking more of the femininity side, but it's all about options. Like, I know, because Kelly was like this, and she would freely admit it when she was younger. Like, she was more of what you would consider to be a tomboy. Like, she liked hanging out with her older brother. She was a daddy's girl kind of person. Like, she liked playing outside, getting dirty, doing that kind of stuff. She wasn't as into, like, the princess foofy stuff. And she didn't have a lot of women like that to look up to. And so you're 100% right. Like, to see pictures online of little girls dressed up like Wonder Woman and that sense of empowerment, it reminds me of when The Force Awakens came out, because a lot of little girls like went and dressed up like Rey, and that's just a really, really cool thing to give girls that like that kind of thing an avenue for expressing that, and like people to look up to that fit the mold that they that they fit into.
Right, because everyone deserves to have to feel represented, right, and feel and to see themselves in other things in medias, and I think that's Wonder Woman is another step in that kind of a positive, inclusive direction, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. So what about you? Like, beyond kind of games you're playing and stuff, anything else?
I've been reading a lot. I've been reading the Prince of Thorns series by Mark Lawrence. I know last episode I talked about some of my favorite fantasy stuff. This is another fantasy book that's written by a more modern author. It came out more recently, I guess I should say. And it's interesting in that the protagonist is a sociopath. And it's again, like, I didn't realize it at first, but I mean, it's not like it's a big spoiler or anything to my knowledge. But it's a Horizon Zero Dawn situation where it's a post-apocalypse. But there is, and they haven't explained a lot of it, but there are like undead zombie things, like people who can control fire and different things like that. Like, but I have a feeling there's some form of a scientific explanation that won't be explicitly given, but is hinted at, because like they're in like medieval technology level. And they have like there are castles built out of like these concrete bunkers and stuff, and they call the old world people the old world builders, the people who crafted these amazing things. And it's really interesting, and he's the protagonist. Like I said, he's a total sociopath. He's just murdering the shit out of everyone, and but I'm in the third book now, which is the final book, and he's like there are nuggets of conscience bleeding through, and it's just been a really neat amount of character development throughout the series. And it's because I'm more into long form fantasy, and these are only like 300, 350, 400 page books. And
Gotcha.
So he really trims the fat on everything. It's in a positive way in that I feel like every word on the page is vital. And so I'm absorbing every single thing. There aren't any throwaway chapters or scenarios.
Yeah, there's no fluff.
Right. Yeah. And so I can at least appreciate that.
Sure.
And it's a really interesting story, and they're quick reads. Like they're not pandering, but they aren't overly complicated either.
Yeah, it's not like a challenging read.
Right. And so it's just been a good time, and not necessarily a turn your brain off time. Just enjoyable.
And how many books are in that series?
3. Yeah, and then he has another series that I ordered the first book of, so I'll be starting that next. Because I'm happy with his writing. Like I said, his name's Mark Lawrence, so feel free to check him out. But that's mainly what I've been reading. I've been trying to get through those books. I've been finishing up some of the new Star Wars canon comics. I ordered a bunch of trades, and I've been wading through those.
I've read a handful of them, and I'm like way behind. I just haven't had time to go back to the local comic book shop to get some more. And part of it, like, they're just expensive, man.
Yeah.
Like Marvel knows because it's like a 4-issue trade's like $18. It's just
crazy.
Ridiculous.
It's because they know people are going to pay tons of money for Star Wars.
And I mean, it's not going to stop me. I'm going to buy it. It's just going to take me longer.
Yeah.
The only other like real comic that I've been reading, and I actually bought this on accident. I meant to get Descender because I had heard multiple things about it, and like I know you had mentioned it, and someone recommended it to me as a fan of the Mass Effect series. And so I meant to buy that, and I mistakenly bought Lazarus, which is another Image comic by Greg Rucka. And so I read it anyway because I didn't know any better. And then it was only afterwards where I was like, this isn't anything like Mass Effect. And then I looked it up like, oh, I bought the wrong thing. But it was still good, thankfully.
Yeah.
So it's called Lazarus, and the basic concept, it's not like an apocalyptic scenario, but it is a future where the world sucks.
Okay.
It's basically just like a couple of rich families own everything, like own countries and stuff.
So
and everyone else
a totally plausible
it's like
future.
Well, yeah, it's like a proletariat bourgeoisie sort of thing where 99% of the population are effectively slaves to these 1% people.
Right.
And each family has a member of their family who has been like cybernetically enhanced to effectively be like an assassin. And so that is what helps keep war at bay between these families, is like this one assassin could kill fucking everybody. And the main character of this book is their family's assassin. I don't remember all the details specifically now off the top of my head, but it is a cool world, and it's one of those where it's like a slow drip of information. You're kind of dumped into the drama that's happening amongst these families, and you don't really have a lot of perspective. But as it goes on, you start putting the pieces together through, their dialogue or the different places things are happening, like random things people will say. So it's been a bit of a slow burn. I'm definitely still curious to read more, but so it was one of those where it was a happy accident. And something we talked about last week, one of the things that makes Image so great, like it was $10. So yeah, I bought the wrong thing. I'm stupid. I should have known better.
It was only $10.
But like, even if I read it and I was like, not for me, it was $10.
Yeah, it was like half the price of what you pay
Marvel.
for a Star Wars trade.
Yeah, exactly. So
for more content. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. So as far as like the meat of today's episode, we're certainly not going to talk about all the E3 games. But we wanted to go through some of the press conferences for today, and then in future episodes we'll go through the rest. So today we were going to talk about EA, Bethesda, Ubisoft, and then mention Devolver Digital's like completely insane, like modern art piece. In fact, let's just start there.
Yeah,
I didn't
out
watch
of the way,
that live because it aired at like 1 a.m. local time, and there was no way I was going to stay up when I had work the next day. But like I watched that afterwards. That thing was so batshit crazy.
It was awesome. Oh man,
it was brilliant.
It was
like
so
all
good.
the nods and making fun of the industry.
Yeah.
I really loved. Like it was like, what was it? Tomorrow's unethical business practices today. Wasn't that like the tagline? So good. And so like twisted. It felt right for their brand and the kind of
Yes.
games they put out.
Very much so. Yeah, they I I would like to see more companies. I don't want to say I want to see like, the big name companies attempt something like that, but I'd like to see more smaller publishers come out and do those types of things.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, things, those short little streams
Yes.
that are tonally more in line with what they do, but more of those types of small streams, and those little events, those little kind of self-aware moments. I enjoy those.
So beyond Devolver Digital's insane, not even a press conference, it really is like a modern art piece.
Yeah.
We had the EA press conference. How'd you feel about it in general?
There were a few things there that I felt drawn to.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of E3s for many years, and I'm kind of like, unless they really do a standout weird thing with their press conference, I'm kind of done talking about the conferences themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
debated them to death. And EA is always the same. Like,
yes, and that's really like that was it was like a leading question, because that was definitely my opinion on it. Was it feels the same as it always does.
Felt
and
familiar.
I'm with you, like sometimes it's fun to like score the press conferences or say like, oh well, I liked this slate of games more than that slate of games.
Right.
But in general, like the press conferences, who really gives a shit? It's a bunch of suits standing on stage and they show trailers. Like, who really cares? And especially this E3 in general, I felt like was a lot less special feeling than it has been in the past, and I've definitely felt that kind of slow decay of E3 press conferences. But just in general, EA felt like more of the same. Like, I'm glad they actually had some stuff to show, and which is more than you could say for the last couple of years, where they've like done a bunch of behind the scenes.
Right.
Because like, oh well, this game's not coming out for 2 years, so let's show you what some of the team's doing on Mirror's Edge. Like, who gives a shit? Like, if you don't have anything to say, don't say it.
Yeah, exactly.
But for me, the standout EA game was Anthem.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
It didn't speak to you?
It's just, to me, it looked like a third-person Destiny, which
Yeah.
I'm gonna play Destiny 2. So why do I need Anthem?
Because I anticipate, I mean, this is based on pure gut feeling, but like, I anticipate Anthem being better than Destiny. Because like, Destiny was so hyped and I was so excited for it, and then I played the demo and was like, actually, this game is not all that. There's not that much you're doing here. I really hope the final game's different, and it wasn't. There just was not enough content. The content that was there was not engaging. It was very single-player, unfriendly. There was no story. Like, that game was a disaster at launch. It had a lot of potential, but I did not really enjoy the admittedly couple hundred hours I put into it.
Yeah, but I mean, like look at Destiny where it is now.
But that's my point. Like, things haven't changed that much. Like, it looks like there is going to be a story, but because the first game still happened and it exists in this world where there are already characters that they've introduced, it still feels like a sequel to a story that didn't happen. Like, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, I'm still gonna check it out, and some of the small tweaks they've made seem positive, but on the whole, it still seems like more Destiny. And I'm still not convinced that it's gonna have enough content at launch. There's still only 4 worlds again. Like, I'm 100% not sold on that. The reason I think Anthem appeals to me, one, is that it's BioWare, and granted, they've been up and down the last couple of years, but it is their A team working on Anthem. It's not the team that's working on Mass Effect Andromeda, that's for sure. And I think that they looked at, because clearly it's meant to compete with something like Destiny, with BioWare's own spin. And I think that they looked at Destiny, the positives and the negatives, and I think that they're really going to learn from that. And this is just my gut talking. I mean, we only saw like 7 minutes of quote-unquote gameplay, so it's hard to tell. But that is my hope and wish for Anthem, and like, I'm ready for that. And assuming it's not going to launch until probably fall 2018, I'm sure they're going to have plenty of time to go through and make some tweaks based on how Destiny 2 even succeeds and fails.
Okay, I guess just for me, mechanically speaking, BioWare has never made a game that feels like really tight to play. You know, like
as far as like a shooter goes, yeah,
right.
I can see that.
And so, and this is leaning even more heavily in that direction as opposed to a Mass Effect like game. And I mean, say what you will about Destiny and the content or whatever, that game felt fucking great to play.
100%.
And
totally agree.
So, and so for me, if I look at these two not dissimilar experiences, I'm going to go with the one that I feel confident that I'm going to at least have a nice time playing, as opposed to the one that, while it may show promise in other areas, if it's not fun to play and that's the main thing you're doing, you know, what am I doing here, right? And so I need to see more of Anthem, and I honestly, I probably won't be able to formulate a solid opinion on Anthem until I get my hands on it, you know?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get overhyped about it or praise it too much. It was more so just like it feels familiar for a BioWare game, and it definitely feels familiar for someone that likes Destiny and that kind of crowd. But what they showed was impressive enough where I was like, okay, yeah, because it very easily could have been like, oh, this looks like yet another sci-fi shooter, yet another Destiny clone, and just completely written it off. But there was enough to it that at least intrigued me, and that's really like this early on when the game's not coming out for a year and a half, probably. Like that is really all I'm looking for.
Okay. See, I actually, the Anthem, that the demo they showed really brought me up and then dropped me right back down because it starts out in first person. I was like, oh, BioWare making like a first-person sci-fi game. That could be kind of interesting. And then it pulled out, oh, you're in a Master Chief suit. All right. And I was like,
yes,
okay.
There is very little about Anthem from a conceptual perspective that feels fresh.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely agree.
Yeah. But, I mean, you know, I guarantee you some people are going to play that game and love it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, you know, say what you will about Destiny, there are certainly elements about it that are of high quality. Absolutely. So even if there are problems with Anthem, like BioWare is a talented studio, with the exception of Mass Effect Andromeda, like there hasn't been a BioWare game in recent memory that I haven't at least been okay with.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
As far as EA, though, really the only other game that stood out to me was Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Okay. And yeah, I think Battlefront 2 looks great.
And how much of the first game did you play?
I played for like 2 weeks when it came out.
Yeah, same. We're both big fans of the original Battlefront. I like the first one more than the second one. Do you have a different opinion on that?
I like the first.
Well, I
like elements of the first one.
I didn't like the hero characters.
Yeah, me neither. But the flying and the space combat in the second one was pretty dope.
True. And so like that's been one of my like kind of things towards this new Battlefront series are these hero characters. I feel like that it has become like the major draw, and I don't really care that much about those. But really with the first game, it was just lack of content. Like there weren't enough maps, there weren't enough game modes. The changes they had made from the beginning, like, you know, the ships being random drops, like that just seemed really ill-conceived. So it is nice that they're changing a lot of that, and it feels a little more similar to a traditional Battlefield experience, which I think is a positive direction.
Yeah,
the little gameplay that they showed, it was annoying having the fucking commentators. I don't give a shit about esports. God. I don't fucking care. I know there's a lot of potential money there. I know there are people that care about it, but like, shut the fuck up. Stop saying, like, there was and I don't even know what the fuck that dude's name was that was doing the commentating. He was so annoying, getting very heated about this. Like it was some word that he used like 20 fucking times, and I was like, I swear to God, if he says like it's like slayed, like oh he got slayed or something like that, it's like if this fucking kid says that word one more time, I'm gonna reach into my computer screen and slap him across the face. Shut up, like let the developer talk. Anyway, the actual gameplay looks good. It looks improved from the first game. And I like the ship combat.
Yeah, the return to the class-based system is a major shift, because that was the whole deal with the original Battlefront games is the enemy has a tank, I'm going to spawn as the dude with the bazooka, right? I'm going to spawn as the heavy class. Right. And then, you know, this most recent, the first Battlefront, the first new Star Wars Battlefront, that I didn't, I didn't get that sensibility and that kind of thing. So having the ability to go back to a class system, I think, is important because team comp was sort of a consideration in the original Battlefront games. Like, they're like 4 dudes of this class, so they can probably handle all the anti-air stuff. So I'm going to do this. We don't have any like scouts, so I'm going to be a scout, right? So the ability to see a little more of that information, and team comp is such a esports word that I don't like using it, but that's what it is. I don't have a better term for it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's pretty neat. And like you said, having the vehicles not as random drops, you earn your things throughout the match. I think that's a smart move. They did a little bit of that in the original Battlefront 2. You could earn like a more powerful blaster rifle or something if you got a certain number of kills. It was something weird like that. So there's some of those elements they're pulling from the originals and from their own Battlefield experience. And that's one of the things that surprised me the most about the new Battlefront 1 was that they didn't do any class-based stuff, because that's Battlefield's whole thing is classes.
Yeah.
So that's what kind of surprised me about the first one is, if the source material has it and that's what you generally do, I don't know how that ball got dropped, but whatever.
For me, and we haven't talked about this because we don't know that much about it, but like the single player component, like I'm glad it's there. The story idea seems cool, and like taking place on the Imperial side. I get really annoyed at this, like people are congratulating EA for putting this single player in, like, oh yay, good, you're doing it this time. Like for me, like fucking yeah, they better fucking be doing it. It should have been in there in the first place. Like, I get annoyed at this mentality of, let's congratulate these developers for doing something that they should have done in the first place. Like, why was there not a single-player mode in the first game? Why was there not space combat in the first game? Like, those are core experiences that we want out of a modern Star Wars game, and now people are going to clap their hands and say, oh, good, you're doing it? Like, they better fucking be in there. Ugh. But it does look cool.
That's such a terrible way of looking at it, Shay.
No, but you don't agree that it should have been in there in the first place? It's
but like, let people be happy about it.
No, it's not that. It's not that. I am glad that it's in there too, and I'm glad that they're clearly listening to the community and learning from their mistakes. That's not the point. The point are people that are saying like, good for them for doing it. That is the issue. No, not good for them for doing it. Bad for them for having not done it already. Good for them for learning from their mistake, but I'm not going to congratulate them for doing something that they should have done in the first place.
Okay,
that's what it is.
I think maybe
like okay, if your wife begs and pleads for you to do the dishes for a week and you don't fucking do them, you guys get in a huge fight. She moves back with her parents for a week, and then she comes home and you do the dishes. Is she going to be like, "Oh, Kyle, you're so amazing for doing the dishes"? No, it's your fault for not having done them in the first place. Stop being an asshole and do the dishes. That's my point.
Okay, that's the most one-to-one analogous situation you could have possibly come up with. Dishes versus game development. But no, I think it more speaks to there are a lot of shitty game companies out there, and EA kind of specifically, that do not listen to their fan bases, right? And so the fact that finally someone listened, yes, carrot instead of the stick, like you did a good job, do that again, listen to us.
They have finally learned from like being voted the most hated game company for like the last decade, and like the DLC, at least when it comes to like maps and stuff, is going to be free for this game,
right?
No longer gonna, because part of the problem with the first game was there wasn't enough content, and their response was, yeah, but we have this really robust season pass. Like, oh, okay, so I pay $60 for a game, I don't think there's enough, and your response is, pay $50 more, and then there will be enough.
Right.
That's a really shitty attitude.
Yes.
So I definitely like, and they did this with Titanfall as well, I definitely like that they're taking the mentality of, let's not segment our user base, let's make sure everybody can play together, and then I'm sure they're going to have microtransactions.
They do.
I believe they already announced that they would.
Yeah, it's been confirmed.
But I think it's all going to be like customization kind of stuff.
No, so there are
great.
There are some skills that are locked behind those like loot box things.
Like special moves?
I'm unclear as to what the term skill means, but supposedly yes.
Dangerous. That seems real bad. Like that is literal pay to win.
Yeah.
Like you pay money and you get an ability that other people don't get. That seems real bad. I'm going to hope that it's something different than what you're saying specifically.
Yeah, and maybe there's a fine balance there that they can find, but I'm not super hopeful on that aspect of it. I think I'm just going to have to take that bad with the other good that they learned from the first one.
Right.
And, like, I guarantee you making those games is hard and expensive, especially when dealing with a high-profile property like that, and they need to make their money back. And I get that, but, there's a way to do it and a way not to do it, and I fear they are doing the way not to do it.
Right. So, those were my big games from EA.
Were
there any other huge standouts?
What about that co-op game, A Way Out?
Yeah, like, I think it's an interesting idea. I need to see a little bit more of it live in action. My fear with that, because it's like couch co-op or online co-op, and the fact that you see both characters and both screens at once, no matter what, seems like it could be very distracting very easily. But, like, I think it's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And I really liked Brothers. I don't think Brothers necessarily executed on its mechanics the best that it could have. The ending of it was great. Like, the way that it manipulated the mechanics.
Yeah.
Based on how the story happened, I thought was really, really fascinating. So, based on the pedigree and the idea, I'm interested, but I also am not sure that a game like that will really work, but cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and I thought some of the writing seemed like it could be a little clumsy, and the performances felt a little off. And it's possible it could be trying to emulate older styles of film and TV with some of that stuff, but a lot of it felt a little maybe dated. But I think it's a neat idea. I'm looking forward to playing it, and I think the always split screen is a pretty novel idea that, if it turns out well, I could totally see that being more commonly used in cooperative titles. I agree with you in that it might be a little distracting, but I have a feeling that game is a little more of a cinematic experience anyways.
Yeah, I would assume so too.
Yeah.
From what they showed.
Yeah. And then I guess lastly from EA, Need for Speed Payback. So I recently, like within the past several months, marathoned the Fast and Furious movies because GiantBomb.com was doing Film in 40s. They watched the movie and commentate over it, sort of like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 type of thing. So they had a podcast you could play while you watched the movie, and so that's how my girlfriend and I watched all 7 movies, and then we went and saw the 8th in theaters because we totally fell in love with those films and how crazy they are and how they changed over the course of them. And I haven't played a racing game in a really long time, but I used to play like Gran Turismo on the PS2, and I remember having a really nice time with it, and I'm not sure why I fell out of the racing game genre, but I haven't played one in a very long time. And Payback definitely seems like it's leaning more towards Fast and Furious angle with like the heisty stuff and all the personality and a little more action oriented. And so I think in the absence of a Fast and Furious game franchise, which could totally be awesome, by the way, I think
they made a Fast and the Furious game.
Did they really?
Years and years ago. Yeah, it was complete garbage.
Oh boy.
I remember it came out when I was working at GameStop, so it would have been in like 2013, 2014.
Wow, really? God, I don't remember that.
It was hot trash.
Wow. Well, I feel like this,
much like the Fast and the Furious movies.
I feel like this might be an interesting stopgap between those two types of medias. So I don't know. I might get it super cheap on sale sometime in the future.
Yeah.
I would not buy that on release though. But yeah, that's kind of it for EA. A lot of it felt pretty rote and familiar, but you know,
and I mean they always talk a lot about sports games, which is not our thing, so who gives a shit.
Yeah. On that.
As far as Bethesda goes, I thought was pretty underwhelming overall. There just weren't a lot of announcements and a lot of focus on like VR modes for games that already exist, and Skyrim's coming out on this another platform, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know, like, we talked a little bit about Wolfenstein 2. I know you're excited about that. I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, it looks good. I don't know if I'm going to play it. But I know, like, another game that you're probably interested in was Evil Within 2.
Oh, yeah. I'm extremely excited for that game. I loved the first one. I thought it was really hard and punishing, but I love Shinji Mikami because, you know, he's the Resident Evil guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. I love Resident Evil. He's the grandmaster of that franchise. And I'm really excited to find what comes next for Sebastian and his daughter, who, you know, you go the whole first game, like, he's tortured by the memory of her and her being dead and all that kind of stuff, and then, oh, she's actually alive inside the machine, or is she? And, you know, that kind of shit. Mm-hmm. And it looks like according to the trailers that I've watched, my least favorite female character is returning, which is the disgusting spider-like chick with the long grudge hair and the long legs.
I remember that from...
Oh, God.
I mean, I didn't play the first game, but I remember in the trailer seeing
man.
that
Boss fight still gives me goosebumps. And you see...
I am not a horror game person.
You see her for like a split second in the Evil Within 2 trailer. I'm just like, oh, God, no.
Yeah. It was a really cool trailer.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty obvious right away what it was, and a lot of people already knew that it was going to be announced. It was a super cinematic, stylish trailer.
Yeah,
it's just like I'm not playing that game.
It was.
There's no fucking way.
I thought it was pretty well directed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Wolfenstein 2, New Colossus. I was not expecting it at all. Like, it wasn't on my radar, which is weird because I really liked, you know, New Order and Old Blood. But I'm definitely getting it when it comes out. I'm happy. Also happy to hear they built 2 different storylines based on the choice you made at the beginning of New Order. There's actually kind of divergent storylines there based on which character you chose to let live at the beginning. Or I guess which character you chose to die, rather.
Okay.
But yeah, and then, you know, they talked about Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, that Dishonored 2 thing. Did you play Dishonored 2 at all?
No, I mean, I know they're good. I just never really played them.
Okay, I really like the first one, and I got Dishonored 2 on PS4. I still have it on PS4, but I got to that first big area, and this is like right after release, so pre a bunch of patches. But the frame rate was so bad it gave me a headache, so I stopped playing it. So I literally have a $60 game sitting on my shelf that I played for about an hour. So I might try and go back to it at some point. If it's still total shit, maybe I'll get it on sale on PC at some point and play it, because my rig will actually run it. But until I play Dishonored 2, I don't think I'm going to bother playing this Death of the Outsider thing. For fans of the franchise, It seems cool, like going to kill the Outsider. That's kind of crazy idea, knowing what I know from the first game of the Outsider. So it's like, you know, basically killing this interdimensional godlike being. It's kind of an interesting idea. But yeah, so, you know, that's exciting.
That's really it from Bethesda, I think. Like, not a lot of new announcements. And it was pretty underwhelming. I know a lot of people were hoping we were going to get to see Bethesda Softworks' new IP. Rumor was that it's called Starfield, but nothing like that. So maybe next year.
Yeah. The Fallout 4 VR thing is like, I need to buy VR now. I really have to. I must.
Good.
If in the new house, if I have space for a Vive room scale setup, a Vive headset will be in my future sometime in the next couple of years. And then, because I love Fallout 4, and the idea of immersing myself even more in that world is super appealing. And then, you know, Fallout 4 paid mods, the Creator Club.
Need to see more about it. I mean,
yeah, I want to know the breakdown of pricing and what share goes to who, because I know that was the big deal when they tried to do paid mods before, is the modders were getting shit all money for it, and it wasn't as well curated as this seems like it is, because there were people literally just ripping off other people's mods and then trying to get money for them. And this sounds like everything that's submitted is cross-checked and tested.
Sure. And
it's very well curated. So, you know, if that comes out and that Todd Howard would say, it just works, that's fantastic. But
I'm not holding my breath for that.
Yeah, we'll see. And then they showed that Doom VR thing that it seems, because Doom's great. The new Doom is great. But this little thing they crafted seems like the exact same thing as every other VR game on the market right now, just with a Doom skin. And so that doesn't seem interesting.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Ubisoft rather. We're running real long, so I just want to hit on these like super fast. So they showed Assassin's Creed Origins. Like, they took a year off from making those games, and we're gonna, the theory was they were gonna relaunch the series and change up a bunch of the mechanics. Doesn't look like they did that whatsoever. The concept seems cool. Like, from a story perspective, seeing the origins of the Assassins versus the Templars is cool.
Sure.
I think the Egyptian setting is cool. It's going to be a little bit different because it's not like a big city where you're traversing over buildings. It's going to be more environmental traversal, which is neat. But from an actual gameplay perspective, didn't really do anything to make me all that interested as someone who got really burnt out of Assassin's Creed and thought the combat was actively bad in all of the old games.
Same.
So nothing really there to make me want to jump in.
I agree.
But we'll see. They also showed Skull and Bones, which is like a direct spin-off, which they admitted, a direct spin-off of Black Flag, where it's just this ship-to-ship combat. I thought it looked cool. I'm not sure that you can sustain a full game based upon that kind of multiplayer.
No way.
I know you were way less impressed even than I was.
Yeah, that doesn't interest me at all. Like, I got too much of that ship combat in Black Flag.
Sure,
that was almost
totally
too much.
Agree. Yeah, I did, like that. I really liked Black Flag, and primarily what I liked about it was the ship combat, but it certainly got to be too much by the end of that game, and an entire game focused on that doesn't really appeal all that much to me. But hey, it's pirates, and pirates are cool. One game I know like you're pretty high on that I'm interested in is Far Cry 5.
Yeah. So
that's it. Just
Yeah, my friend and I, we played Far Cry 4 co-op, and it had its limitations, but it was a really good time. And so, they've come out and said Far Cry 5 is fully cooperative. Like, it's not just the base rating type thing. It's fully cooperative, the whole story. So that's cool. I think my buddy and I will have a really good time playing through that game. And I really like the American setting. And I love even more that those alt-right butt munchers are all butthurt about it. Like, oh, white people can't be terrorists. like that people are literally saying that, and I'm just white people
right.
are the most terrorists. Like, come on, man. But yeah, anyways,
I think that's a separate topic.
Yeah, it's
that
for another
we won't
day.
Dive into on the podcast.
No,
ever.
But anyways, like it's a cool. You don't see a lot of games take place in America. At least not games like that. It's always some weird exotic setting. So something a little closer to home for me personally is kind of interesting.
And if they do the story right, I am interested. I mean, you and I fall on different sides of the societal and political and religious spectrum, but as someone who is like a moderate and a Christian, Ubisoft has never been great about dealing with sensitive issues. And being a French company, being very openly liberal company, I get a little afraid that they're going to paint with a very broad brush about conservatives and Christians. From what I have seen of the game, it doesn't look that way.
No,
to be
I don't
completely
think so
fair.
either.
It is a fear based upon the concept. But based on what they have shown, it being this like Hicksville kind of religious cult mentality, and this like, you say terrorist organization like centered around this religion, like all of that is really interesting and like toes a line that video games don't often toe, which I think is really cool. I just don't want to see them go on the other side of the line. That's my only fear. From a pure like game perspective, it seems like more Far Cry, which is like, I could take or to leave that. Far Cry 3 and 4 are both phenomenal games, but they're both like the same game. Primal, I didn't play, but I heard was way less successful and changed up the mechanics a lot, but still was the same game. So hopefully this has more gameplay mechanics. I just don't want more of the climb the tower, unlock a bunch of icons. Like, I'm so fucking sick of that. Horizon Zero Dawn has that, and it's really annoying. We need to find a new way of making these open world games work. So
yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, I think probably my biggest surprise from the show, the entire E3, was the Mario and Rabbids Kingdom battle.
Yes, totally agree. Let's actually, since we're running so long, let's save that. In the next episode, we're going to talk about Nintendo's press conference.
Okay.
So let's actually plan on talking about that with Nintendo. But I'm right there with you. I cannot believe I'm excited for that game, but I totally am. Like, that was one of my most pleasant surprises for sure.
Yeah.
Kind of the other two big games, you know, they announced Beyond Good and Evil 2. It was a purely stylish, you know, cinematic trailer. There's no gameplay in it. The game, like, is just starting to be worked on.
Right.
So I don't think we can take anything from that trailer. I played Beyond Good and Evil. I played it after the fact, so there's no nostalgia there. I thought it was cool and the ideas were cool. I'm certainly not like a cult follower of Beyond Good and Evil like a lot of people are.
Me neither.
But they have said that they want this to be like more of an open world RPG-ish kind of game, which the world of this seems really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely down with that.
If they can, you know, if it isn't just a bunch of space racism, then I think, or
Right.
speciesist, I guess,
Right.
speciest.
Xenophobia.
Yeah. I think that could, yeah. I agree. Cigar smoking monkey, he's all right in my book.
Absolutely. Dude drops F-bombs like nobody's business.
Yeah, that was a
but
bit-
hell.
that was a bit
when I get passionate, sometimes I do too, so I get it.
Hey, if I was a monkey, I'd cuss too.
And really the last game that I wanted to talk about Ubisoft is South Park: The Fractured But Whole. Stick of Truth was my game of the year in 2014. Fucking loved that game. We're both big South Park fans. I respect the show a lot. One of the things that was really good about Stick of Truth was that it felt like a trip down memory lane for South Park fans, which I'm not sure you can do that twice, but it being developed by Ubisoft now, a much bigger studio, the improvements that they're making to combat with it feeling a little more tactical and less turn-based RPG, I think could be cool and make it a little bit different. And I certainly like the coon kind of superhero concept behind it. I think that'll all be really fun.
Yeah.
So I'm super looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
And so now I guess to kind of wrap up the episode, we'll talk about my hate of the week.
Hate of the week.
So this week, it's a bit of a controversial hate of the week. Let me get my listeners, before you yell at your radio, let me say my piece. But today's hate of the week are memes. Now, memes are amazing. I love memes. Basically, the only reason I go on Facebook is to check the Giant Bomb Facebook group and the 25 meme pages that I follow. However, memes have also highlighted how terribly unfunny most people are in life.
It's true.
There are so many great memes out there, but there are just as many unfunny memes. And what is even worse, memes that ruin potentially good memes. Because they execute a joke idea, but they do it badly. And so because of that, if someone were to try to recreate the similar joke, but like an actual funny person would do it, they can't. It's already been ruined. It's like going and seeing a really unfunny comedian talk about a funny topic, and then going and seeing a funny comedian talk about the same topic. That funny comedian, it doesn't matter. It's too late. That topic has already been ruined by the unfunny person. And that's how I feel about memes. Not to mention the fact that it really highlights how terrible people are with grammar and spelling. Like how many wrong instances of the word there on memes.
Oh, man.
Like to me that ruins the joke. I know that's super elitist and annoying and people get mad at these grammar Nazi people, but being, I am a professional writer. That is my job, my marketing job. I am a writer. Like that really, really gets on my nerves and grinds my gears.
Stop.
You could say.
So I have one thing to say about memes, and that is I custom designed and ordered a doormat that it has all of the Dolan characters. So Dolan, Gooby,
Yes.
Mikey Mouse, what's Pluto's?
Spoderman.
Yeah, Spoderman. Oh, what's Pluto's thing? I forget what they call Pluto. But it has all of those characters, and it says home, HOEM, sweat, SWET, home, HOEM.
Mm-hmm.
So home, sweat, home. And it has all the Dolan characters. It's so
that's
good.
purposeful bad spelling.
Yes.
And sometimes because I talked about today I hate are these like fucking millennial phrases that make me feel a million years old and don't make any sense. But sometimes like those work. Like sometimes in context of a meme, saying "bae" works.
Yeah.
Or saying "you are"
because it's being used
or "you're"
ironically
or whatever. Yes, and that like sometimes those can work that way. I more just mean like actual mistakes in spelling and grammar.
Right.
Like spell check, fucking spell check your shit. It just basically my point is that unfunny people should not be allowed to tell jokes. Period. The end. Not everyone is funny. I like to think I'm fairly funny. I'm more sarcastic than like straight up funny, but I think the sarcasm is the funny. And I think, Kyle, you're the same way. But like there are like it's you know what? For people that aren't funny, that sucks. Like people want to be seen as funny.
Yeah.
There's the classic thing of like women saying, "Oh, I don't care what you look like. I don't care how much money you make. I just want a nice funny guy."
Which is fucking
and not everyone's
false.
funny. Well, yes, but that's a separate thing. But like, not everyone is funny. Just like not everyone's attractive. It's just the difference is you don't know someone's not funny until you've had to talk to them first. You can tell if someone's attractive right away. So maybe that's the key.
I would hazard a statistic that there are less funny people than there are attractive people.
Maybe like people that are funny no matter what.
Yeah.
I could see that. But I feel like most people at least have like a topic or kind of a style or a sense of humor that can work. I feel like most people can do that.
Okay.
It's when people try to branch out, and especially when it comes to like memes and with telling jokes online, that is a means of joke telling that is not a skill set that everybody has. It requires like quick wit and like conciseness that people I don't think are always that good at doing.
Right.
Just my 2 cents. You know, from the person whose opinion matters more, and from a very funny person speaking to the unfunny masses. That's just how I feel.
Yeah, if you put in your 2 cents, I'm only ever able to put in my 1 cent.
Like a half, it's like a half pence.
Half pence, yeah. It's one of those pennies with a hole in it.
Right, yes. It's foreign money.
Yeah.
We don't accept that here, but
right.
Thanks for
it's
bringing
like
it
not
up.
even enough foreign money to bother getting it exchanged either.
Yeah, you'll lose it all in taxes.
Yeah, it's just taking up space.
So thank you everybody for listening to the second episode of the Shea Hates Everything podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard here, you can check out SheaHatesEverything.com. It's my website where I talk about video games, movies, comics, and other shit that matters in the written form. Because I am a professional writer. Now that I've put myself out there as that, everybody's going to be combing through my website like, oh, well, here's a grammar mistake. Oh, you didn't need this comma, blah, blah, blah. I definitely set myself up for that one. But we also will take emails on the show. We don't have any now because we've just started, and we probably only have like 6 listeners. But if you do have any questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, opinions, feel free to send them to info@SheaHatesEverything.com, and we'll be sure to shit on your opinion. So thanks, guys, for listening. Kyle, thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys in the next episode where we're talking about more E3 games. See you in the next one.